Welcome to another Cardano update. Like always, make sure to check out our YouTube memberships and our Patreon if you want access to all of our charts and if you want access to our daily Discord updates. So here, just like yesterday, we are still waiting for the fifth wave of this 1, 2, 3, 4 setup. The target for that is at 61.6 cents, but you have to understand, to actually get to that level, we have to break back above the moving average on the RSI, and if we do not manage to do that, and let's say if we get rejected by the RSI after testing it, this could be a sign that maybe the top right here is already in, and meaning that this was actually a fourth wave of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 setup for the C wave to the downside, and this means that we're gonna get to like 47.6 cents, which again is my main scenario for the time being, because if you go to the Bitcoin chart on the 4 hour, the 1618 target for the C wave right here of this much bigger AB structure is at $98,000, meaning that if we break below, let's say, the 0.618 support level over here of a very small 1, 2, 3, 4 setup, which is at $103,000, we're probably gonna get to that level. But again, do not expect Bitcoin to close the weekly wick below $100,000 because that's not gonna be bullish. So the best case scenario is that we get to like $98,000 and then we get a short-term bounce to maybe $102,000, and during that time on the RSI on the weekly, we could finally get to the trend line right there and hopefully actually close at the trend line rather than, a bit above it like we did last week, because so far I think we are still copying exactly what we did back in 2023. Here the price went lower and lower every single week until we got to the trend line on the RSI, and only after that we confirmed that the low is in, and that's when the price actually started going up again. But we also have the scenario that maybe we're not gonna get to the trend line this time because, maybe we're gonna do something different. But even if that is the case, what we need to do right now to confirm that the low right there is actually in, we need to break above the moving average on the weekly RSI, and then we need to test it, and only after we stay above it I'm gonna be able to tell you that maybe we do not need to get to the trend line anymore. But for the time being, I believe the price is gonna get to the trend line just because that's what happened every single time we actually had a correction. So I don't think this time is gonna be any different, but I don't want to talk about this too much in this video because I want to move on to the daily chart real quick. And before I even talk about what is happening right here on the RSI, I actually want to show you what happened in the last 3 corrections after we found a bottom, just so you could get an idea of what we need to do to confirm that the low is in. So here, for example, back in 2023, after we got that low over there, let's say in September, the price got up to the bull market support band, and during this time we tested the moving average on the RSI many times, and here after we finally stayed above it, that's what gave us the move to the upside, and that's pretty much exactly what happened back here in 2024 as well. As you can see, we got to the oversold territory, then we got above the moving average on the daily, we stayed above it, but then we got rejected by the bull market support band. This gave us a move to the downside. During that time we broke below the moving average on the daily, and then after that, that's when we broke back above it, and that's when the price finally got back above the bull market support band. Then, just like it did every single time, it tested the bull market support band, and after it tested the bull market support band, it got back above the moving average on the daily, and that's what gave us a move to all-time highs, and that's exactly what happened back here as well. So first of all, as you can see, we broke above the moving average on the daily RSI, we tested it a couple of times, then we tested the bull market support band in this area, and only after we tested the bull market support band, that's when we finally got a move to the upside. So I think what we need to do right now is the exact same thing. We need to test the moving average right there on the daily RSI and hopefully bounce off the moving average, get a move to the upside, get a move to the bull market support band or even above it. Then at some point we're gonna need to test the bull market support band like we did every single time, and after we do that and after we break below the moving average on the daily RSI, then we could finally get back above it and, get a move to the upside on the Bitcoin chart, which could again put us at new all-time highs and even maybe between $150,000 and $200,000 or even more. It all depends on how much Bitcoin is gonna go up for, but if we drop below the moving average right there on the daily RSI, it could mean that we could do exactly what we did right here or right here. Back in this area, for example, after we broke below the moving average on the daily, that's what gave us another low, and the exact same thing could be said about this area. So yeah, until we actually test it and until we actually get a move to the upside, we could always get to $98,000 and finally get a move after that. So we'll see if that plays out, but moving on to the Ethereum chart on the daily, I want to remind you that Ethereum got to the oversold territory on the RSI for the first time since we were down here at $1,400, which I believe is a very good sign. But if we actually want to do exactly what we did in that area, what Ethereum needs to do right now is exactly what Bitcoin needs to do. It needs to stay above the moving average on the daily RSI and then bounce off of it, and that's gonna give us a fifth wave of the fifth wave. But until that happens, I mean, we could always drop below it and always get another low, because that's pretty much what happened here. For example, we broke below the moving average and that's what gave us a move to the downside, and even here, we have been rejected by the daily RSI about, let's say, 5 times already, so this time could be no different, but we'll see how this plays out. And now moving on to the Cardano chart on the weekly, just another reminder that so far we have not gotten to the trend line right there on the RSI, and I think we're gonna get to the trend line because, like I mentioned, I am expecting Bitcoin to get to $98,000, and if that happens, I think Cardano is gonna get to around 47 cents or maybe 50 cents, and during that time it's probably gonna test the trend line on the RSI. It's gonna close at the trend line, and that's gonna be a bottom indicator because that's exactly what happened in this area, and that's exactly what happened back there as well. Speaking of this zone right here, this was 2023, and this low right here was a higher low, and then after we got a higher low, that's what gave us a move to the upside. And again, during this higher low, that's when the trend line was tested yet again, and after it was tested, we got above the moving average on the daily RSI, and that's what gave us this move to the upside. But going back to the weekly chart on Bitcoin, I want to show you what happened back in 2017 because I believe I found a pattern that looks very similar to what we are doing right here. So let's go back to 2017. As you can see over here, if you look at the RSI, we had a similar looking setup. We got to the exact same RSI levels about 4 times, and each time we got to the RSI level of about, let's say, 53 or so, that's when the price found a low, and that's when the Bitcoin chart went to new all-time highs. And what you will notice is that back in 2017, the trend line right there was tested 4 times, and after we tested it for the 4th time, we still went to all-time highs, and right now we're about to test it for a 4th time again, meaning that if we actually stay above it, we could be following exactly what happened over there. So over there, after we tested it for the 4th time, we went up until we finally broke back below it during this drop over here, and when the RSI dropped below the trend line, that's what confirmed that the top was in. As you can see right there, dropping below the RSI was pretty much where the top was. And after that we tried getting above it, but unfortunately we got rejected by the trend line, and that's what gave us a move to the downside and a move to the oversold territory on the RSI. So I believe this time is gonna be the exact same thing. As long as we stay above the trend line, there's a chance that the price goes higher and it gets to new all-time highs, and at some point after we break all-time highs, let's say later in the year, the RSI is gonna drop to the trend line again, but during this time we're not gonna be able to stay above it, and that's gonna lead to a bear market. Obviously Bitcoin is gonna try to recover by testing the trend line like it did back in 2017, but after that it's gonna get rejected, and that's gonna put us in the oversold territory on the RSI, and that in my opinion is gonna be a good buying opportunity, because back in 2017 over here, when we got to the oversold territory, that was pretty much the bear market low. So I think this is how it's gonna play out for the time being. I don't think the cycle is over as long as we stay above the trend line. So that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to check out our YouTube memberships and our Patreon if you want access to all of our charts, and if you want access to our daily Discord updates. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.